Good morning. Oh, I shake my head because, wow. I, well, let me just read the title and then the blurb. I went to court with my attorney is the title of this video. And the blurb that I just wrote goes like this. Once again, I put the video I had planned 2 days ago on hold. My mind is filled with the events of yesterday. For the first time in my life, I had an attorney representing me. If that was not the case, I would be facing eviction today. He bought me time, but I was not allowed to even speak when the opposing counsel was lying by omitting facts. Anyway, in this video I will talk about this matter that is so critical to me. I will also mention 2 videos I heard yesterday by Karen Hudes and Drake Bailey that may have bearing on my case. Indeed, I'm putting off my Anastasia video, Early Man Was Not Primitive. This is the first time I've ever done this, where I write a blurb and I end up not using it not just one day, but 2 days. But as I said, my mind is, of course, occupied with what happened in court. Now, the attorney, actually, we talked for approximately half an hour prior to going into the judge's chambers. It wasn't actually a courtroom, it was the judge's chambers. And it was just, I don't know what you would call him, an armed guard with a gun. He was sitting in there, and the judge and the opposing counsel, my counsel, me, and one other person who was the next case that the judge was going to hear. And she was able to sit in. I don't know why they even let somebody sit in when it is not appropriate to them, but they invited her to come in and sit down. And she's the next one after me. Anyway, I was dumbfounded because some of the things that I felt were most important didn't seem to be covered. Now, the attorney told me when we went back out, because I was raising my hand saying, I need to say something, I need to say something, and the judge wouldn't acknowledge me, and the attorney turned to me and says, put your hand down. And then he told me later, you're not allowed to speak, you've hired me to speak for you. You're not allowed to put your 2 cents in. He says, I saw from the judge's reaction that he was going to grant my motion. There was no need in prolonging it or whatever. I don't remember his exact words, but there was no need in making it more than it needed to be. He already bought the time. Now, I hope to encourage him to pursue some other matters that are relative to this case, because again, it wasn't even emphasized. My attorney did mention that there were factors in the previous case that had bearing on this one. Indeed, in the previous case, it was agreed that if I gave them power of attorney to sell the Merritt Island property that had the mortgage on it, that I would be allowed to keep my home. That was the stipulation. I wouldn't make any other claims, and bear in mind, it was the property was on sale for $9.99. There were 2 offers made right when the lawsuit hit. The lawsuit hit within less than just a couple of weeks after when I was moving into the house. I hadn't even settled everything yet, and they had already, the banker, and more precisely the banker's wife, he was retired, but he had represented Dr. Mary for years, and they filed the lawsuit claiming undue influence, which of course was never proven. It never went to trial. I by filing all of my free man papers, was able to drag it out for an extended period of time, 8 years to be exact. And then they opened this lawsuit, but the other attorney was saying that I was stalling. I mean, stalling? I almost died. I was in the hospital getting operated on. I was in the hospital for about 2 months out of the year, and short of breath for 3 more months, where I was still recuperating, and I didn't know if I would ever be back to normal again until I started seeing the alternative practitioner who was using laser therapy on me and got me back to where I can now exercise and go to the gym, and I have some stamina. You know, it's a completely different ball game. I mean, I expect to fully recover, and in fact, in the gym today, I hold on to the handlebars when I'm pedaling for a couple minutes. That's you know, a couple miles, not minutes, miles, and the range was 124 to 126, and it was mostly 125 the whole time. At the very end, I was going a little bit faster on purpose, and it went up to 126. But it was 3 revolutions per minute, or 3 beats per minute heartbeat change. Now that's in the red, but it's stable. It's not arrhythmia. It's not jumping all over the place in the red, the green, the yellow, and the red, as it has in other times. So my heart is stabilizing, which to me is a very good sign. But in any case, I was not happy that he told me to plan on moving out of my house after the next hearing on January the 4th, because he didn't think that he was going to be able to win it. However, I listened to Karen Hudes and Drake Bailey's messages yesterday. I watched some of them, listened mostly. I don't like to sit in front of the computer. I like to get away from the computer whenever I can, and if I just can listen, that's good enough. But I listened to those interviews, and I think it was David Wilcock that was interviewing Drake Bailey, if I remember right. David Wilcock was in one of them, and I'm pretty sure it was that Drake Bailey one. But in any case, they both seem to be of the strong impression that there are forces working in the United States, in the military and even some law enforcement, that are going to arrest the criminals that have been running the cabal, namely the Bushes and the Clintons and the Obamas and all of that, a whole faction that has been undermining the freedoms of the United States. Of course, the Constitution was undermined in the 19th century by allowing attorneys to be there. But Drake was pretty emphatic that it would be returned to the original Constitution with a few changes, and of course that's gender and race will not be excluded in the reordering of the constitutional foundation of the United States of America. So whether these things come to pass or not, and how quickly they may have a bearing on my case. Certainly, if they start arresting presidents and senators and congressmen and CEOs of major corporations and banks and stuff like that, a lot can happen. They did talk about returning, there was talk about returning to a financial system that's based on, not on fiat currency, on gold-backed and precious metal-backed currency, which to me is at least a step in the right direction, although obviously I believe that ultimately we're going to be working with no currency. And exactly how that's going to work, I'm not sure. That's the Ubuntu plan. But in any case, and I want to make an apology, because I realized in listening to Drake, you know, he really laid it heavy on the not the OPPT, he laid it heavy on the RUSA, RUSA, and said that Tim Turner was basically a charlatan. And I was part of RUSA. I was the Secretary of State of Florida, and many of the people that I worked with ended up losing their homes, including the governor, as I think I've said in previous videos. In any case, I've probably made some bad choices in who I aligned with, trying to accomplish what my vision was for a better world. And if I led people astray, I want to apologize for that. And on that note, I'm going to end this video, and thank you for listening. Namaste.